Hi, welcome. This is our first review for our new YouTube channel. We are Rewind Stop Fast Forward. I'm Jordan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Jared.
We are doing a non-spoiler and spoiler-filled review for Hobbs and Shaw. We're starting off with non-spoiler first, of course, and then we'll let you know when we're jumping into the spoiler part of the video.
Yep.
Jared, start with you because I think you're the biggest fan here of the franchise.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts on the film.
I thought it was a fun film. It was a funny film. Like, some of the characters worked really well with each other, but I don't know, man. Yeah, it wasn't a great film. Yes, Nick.
All right,
that's all I have to say. Really, yeah.
I want to say snappy writing. Characters were well written and fairly funny. They worked well together. Acting on point. Like, no one rocked up to work half-assing this movie.
Yeah, they all brought their own.
Yeah, definitely.
Idris Elba as the villain, I thought, did a good job.
Yeah,
but the material that they were working with, fairly subpar.
Yeah.
Pacing and like the tonality of the film is all over the place. The structure, it's in 3 parts and each part has its own climax, so it almost feels like the movie reaches a finale 3 times. And so by the 3rd time you're like, this movie needs to end.
Yeah.
It's dragging on crazy.
Yeah.
They all hinder, and then there's action sequences that are, for me personally, so far outside of the realm of believability, that really, to an extent, drew me out of the film.
I agree.
So I would say that all in all, while the actors really worked hard and did give good performances, it was not enough to make this a quote-unquote competently made film for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do really agree with you. As I said, the actors and the director all did what they could with the material given. As I said, I think the dialogue itself works in a lot of moments in the film when there is just pure banter between the characters. I think that's when it does shine, but then a lot of the time it's very just lackluster dialogue. You know, it just gets you from point A to point B. And the story itself, it's pretty much in line with what you're seeing with where the Fast and Furious films are going in terms of story.
Yeah.
So it's nothing rip-roaring, and what you get as a result of that is a film that just drags on. It has really no stakes in the story because everything is just at such levels of unbelievability that you're just constantly just watching ridiculousness ensue on screen.
Yeah.
And you just get entire sequences that you're almost taken out of the film, as you said, because it's just you're just so disengaged because what's happening on screen is you're like, what? This is so visually just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the story reasons gives you nothing to kind of grab onto. No reason to stay invested in the story, in the world and story and characters.
These aren't deep characters by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But no one expects deep characters from these kinds of films. But when you're talking about the kind of action film that we are talking about now, there's certain expectations nowadays for what an action film is, and it needs to be more embedded in realism, and it needs to be kind of gritty. It needs to be well shot because the quality of action films recently are so high that people are really spoiled for choice. And I feel like that when it's not done right, it's way more noticeable now than maybe like the cheesy action films that we all loved as kids, but you kind of get away with that, and I just don't think you can get away with it anymore.
And I think the thing is as well, there are, like, with the kind of budget you're working with on a film like this, you have no reason why you couldn't film a certain shot, a certain
I feel like the fighting scenes, I feel like they weren't weren't shot poorly.
No, they were
very, like, they were shot pretty well.
Yeah.
I have to agree. The actual action scenes in the film are just like so outside of the realm of believability that it's just like I found myself sitting like just laughing at some of the crazy stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
In the
But I think that at the same time they're like, I could sit here and say for myself personally, because I'm a big fan of John Wick and what they have done with that franchise. Like, each film has progressively gotten bigger than the last, but their like action scenes themselves still stay within reality.
Yeah.
And they've still got weight to them.
Yeah.
But it's also embedded within a franchise, which now I don't even feel like you can say about Fast and the Furious as a franchise. Like, watching the first film or the second and third film and what we're seeing now,
it's two completely different things.
They're different things. Yeah. They're different universes. I feel like there's no like consistency within the canon of Fast and the Furious anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I struggle to comprehend that Brian O'Connor and what's Vin Diesel's character? Dominic Toretto exist in the same world
that this movie is set in.
Dwayne Johnson, like Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which really really disappoints me in the sense that, you know, like, my expectations going into a Fast and the Furious film is now skewed because of what I'm watching on screen.
I would have rather them, if they wanted to put these two actors in a film together, to just have created almost a new property or something like that and given its own identity, because I feel like it would have probably resulted in a better film.
Yeah.
Because it's attached to a pre-existing franchise that it's got certain expectations, you're therefore going to get, you know, certain things that you're required to put into your film.
Yeah.
So then, like, the directors then have to, you know, fight between making his own film and making a film that has to fit into a franchise, and that's
I do question in terms of studio interference. How much was kind of pre-allocated? Before going into the film, like how much the writing staff, how much control they had over the story.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because without spoiling too much, obviously this film is designed to fit into a larger picture. Like, it's a setup for something bigger.
Yeah.
So you do have to question the kind of creative control that they had when you're looking at the big picture.
Yeah,
and maybe
absolutely.
that did play a big role in the outcome of the film.
Yeah.
I know that overall the reviews are fairly positive, but I can't really justify
same.
saying
I have
that
to I agree.
Film.
It's not a good film, but I would like to focus on a couple of the positives about the film after all of those negatives that we've just pointed out. But I must say the humor in this film landed quite well for me. It had me like unexpectedly laughing quite a few times in the cinema.
I was not expecting to laugh.
Absolutely, me too. Which I feel like the last 3 or 4 Fast and the Furious have failed to do. The humor's very, very stale and it's more like
especially in the 8th film. I found that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was one scene in the 8th film, and that was Jason Statham on the plane with the baby. That was the only scene in the entire film that I actually, cracked a smile.
But at this point,
that was a smile. That wasn't an actual like. Whereas this film, as you said, Nick, I didn't expect to laugh, and I found myself laughing throughout the film, which was a pleasant surprise, especially in a film like this.
Yeah.
I
thought that David at least provide a little bit of his own style to the film, which, made it above just being super generic. I thought at least he added some kind of visual flair to the film, even if it wasn't, a lot of things, like especially sequences.
It was all quite stylish, I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah. The dynamic between the two main characters was really well done, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think
it's
that
just a
could
shame
be
that
enough
the story,
to sell people on the film. And if that's something you're like, if you want to just go in and have fun watching these two actors play off each other, then you might have a ball with this film.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing. As I said, the action sequences are still competently filmed, and it's still, some of them it looks really good, and you might get a kick out of that. So your mileage may vary depending.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, definitely. Structurally, not well structured.
No, it definitely dragged on.
Not super well written, with the exception of the dialogue, which once again is very funny.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can hit the mark so strongly with the dialogue and the banter, and then the story just crumbles around these characters.
It's almost comes to the point where it's almost like when you're writing these characters, because they're so much fun, it's almost like you get so much energy when you start writing them, and then when you're like, oh, now we got to get from point A to point B, so you just kind of write that section in, and then you're like, oh, we get to do a bit more banter, so then you get excited to write that, and then okay, we're going to do the next section, so you just write that, and
which is unfortunate, because I could see the potential for a decent film in this film. You know, like if there was quite a few, like if there was a few sections removed and a couple of sections changed a little bit, it could have been a decent film. It could have been a very enjoyable film, but it was just that in between bits that really let the film down. You know.
Yeah. And it has drastically altered my my expectations of Fast and the Furious films going forward. Like,
definitely.
But I think the franchise has been leaned to this point. So like
every time I go,
absolutely,
but gone are the days where I, you know, am hoping that we can go back to what it once was for the first 3 or 4 films.
Yeah,
I know that that's a bit of a pipe dream on my part, but that's.
I'm completely on board with you, man.
So.
Bring back the cars, yeah.
I just start to wonder, honestly, at this point, how much bigger you can make the stakes. Like, that's my...
I know, I'm very sick of this end of the world trope. Like, it's very frustrating. That's why I'm on board with you, Nick. Like, if we had a Fast and the Furious very similar to Tokyo Drift, where the stakes were really personal to the main character, and it was about the cars and about the racing, then I feel like, you know, that they could honestly bring back a really solid Fast and the Furious film.
Even just as, like, when you look back at the first film, because it's set in Los Angeles, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just, like, the aesthetic of, like, Dom's house and, like, the streets.
Absolutely.
Like, it has its own, you know, look and its own feel.
Exactly, this one doesn't have.
And, like, this one is just, like, world-spanning adventure.
Yeah.
And you just get, like, generic city in, like, London, and then you just, like, get generic CIA, you know, room, and, like, it's stuff like that, where I think the strongest aesthetic in this film was when they were in Samoa. And, like, you saw the family. That was when I was like, oh, this actually is a really fun environment. That, like, if you would have set the entire film in that one location, that could have been far more interesting. Yeah.
There was, I must say, one of the things I did really like about the film, and this is like the very first scene, so I wouldn't say it's too much spoilers, but the when Dwayne Johnson wakes up and they've got the screen is split in the middle, and they've got Dwayne Johnson waking up on one side of the screen and Jason Statham waking up, and it shows their like morning routine. I thought that was really a really nice touch for the opening of the film.
There are little things that I like that David Leitch adds to the film. It just gives it a little bit more kind of style that you know, some directors might not.
Yeah. So I think just to wrap this up, like the spoiler-free section. Yeah. Obviously, I think we're all on the same page that the characters were really well written, and you know, if you're a fan of just kind of like well-written characters, snappy writing, then you probably will get a kick out of this movie. But if you're going into it with any expectation of like a strong story or, you know, investment in what's going on, I don't think you're gonna be fulfilled by this movie.
I feel like there is light shining through the cracks in this film. There are solid things in this film, but it's a very small amount that you know, if they were able to get that light through the cracks, they could make a very solid Fast and the Furious film. But it was it's just not enough light at the moment.
Well, they could make a very solid action film.
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably not what I would consider a Fast and the Furious film.
Exactly. But
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely want to go more into depth, but we'll do that in our.
We're just going to transition over to a spoiler version where we can talk a little bit more specifically. I think.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the film yet, pause the video, save it, and come back later, because from now on it'll all be spoilers.
Yep.
All
right. We'll hope to see you back here then.
Yep.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is the spoiler section now. So make sure you've seen the film. Who wants to start off?
All right, perfect. I want to start off, if I can, by talking about one action sequence in particular that I thought was so outlandish that I really just want to hear your guys' opinion about it.
Yep.
First third of the film, where Idris Elba's character, Brixton infiltrates MI5 to attain the...
Is it MI5 or MI6?
Whichever one it is, to attain the serum from the girl. What's her name?
Hattie Shaw.
And they're rappelling down the building. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like jumps out of the building, rappels down barehanded, somehow like manages to rappel himself down a building, and then fight dudes in midair, like a punch on while falling from the sky, and being able to land unharmed at the bottom of that building.
Yeah, I don't know how he didn't absolutely shred all of his skin. While holding onto that rope, anyone's skin would have been completely shredded.
How does, when a film has the backing of the same people that choreographed fights for John Wick and the like, how does this end up making it into a final cut of a film? I don't understand.
Well, even just like David Leitch, when you look at he did Atomic Blonde and Deadpool 2, which I would say even like Deadpool 2.
Even Deadpool 2 is more grounded in realism.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, that's very true.
Which is crazy. Yeah. Like, I know the premise of this movie is that they're trying to kind of wipe out the weaker half of the population and create genetically enhanced superhumans that are like symbiotic man and machine.
Yep.
So Idris Elba's character is like half machine, and he's meant to be like overpowered. He literally states in the movie, he's like, I'm Black Superman.
Yeah.
But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Black Superman,
and he isn't even mechanically enhanced.
He's a man. he's a normal
big
dude.
Boy.
Yeah. But he has the strength of Captain America.
I have to agree. Like the level of like what they expect you to believe is possible is just like, it is just blown the lid off completely,
I thought that buddy scene, to be honest, was more realistic than the very end sequence with the whole helicopter.
Yeah, true. No one would have survived that.
Well, like when he was holding on with the chain, like...
Oh, yeah.
But just like even the way that the chains were like linked, there's a scene where there's a sequence of 4 cars that are being used to hold a helicopter to the ground. So like it starts off with one car holding the helicopter down, and then the helicopter overpowers one car, and then a second car comes along and chains itself to the first car. Even the way that
they were chaining the cars together, it was like
even the way that happened,
clips, and it just kind of clipped on, and you're like, oh, okay, right.
I don't want to be nitpicky, but like the scene where the chains come loose and Dwayne Johnson manages to like hold a helicopter and the car together with his fucking biceps is crazy. I feel like they're honestly heading in a direction where they're trying to compete with like Marvel by creating like superheroes.
Yeah, but then they're not actually. Like that's the thing that's the kicker, is that they are just normal people. They're supposed to be just normal people,
That's very true.
But
I mean, like, it's the whole holding the helicopter down with cars, it's nothing we haven't seen before. Like, I remember a scene in, I think it's Fast and Furious 6 maybe, where they have like a couple of cars like shooting grappling hooks and holding down this huge ass plane. Like that whole like throwing the hook around the helicopter, like whatever. We've seen it before, that's fine. But I have to agree with you, that is like some next level, like...
Yeah, but for me, like, the levels of unbelievability of... I'm sitting in the cinema watching as they're driving up and hooking their cars onto one another as they're holding down this helicopter, and I was honestly laughing. Like,
me
I was
too.
like, because this was like so ridiculous, and I'm so disengaged with the film because I'm like, what in the hell is this? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, exactly.
That I am laughing, and that's probably not what you want your audiences to be doing, I suppose. Not. But like, it depends, because people might be doing that, but they're enjoying the hell out of it. So like, that's kind of the two ways to experience it. But for me, I was like laughing because I just found it so ridiculous and so ludicrous.
Absolutely,
because it just didn't work for me.
I feel like it sort of comes back to the way how Fast and the Furious has transitioned from, like the first couple of movies being like, in a realm of existence, like, a realm of believability and about the cars and the street racing. And then like, I think it was after Fast and Furious 5, like 6, 7,
5
8.
is when it really kind of started putting it into that realm of ridiculousness, but it was still
it was still believable, like in a certain, like extent. It was like, okay,
like they were dragging
that
the
might not be
safe
real, but you know what
through the streets, but like it was still fun and like it was still a bit ridiculous, but it was still,
in the realm of believability, right? And then like the next movie in 6, that's where like all of that like, this could be real has just gone, and they're just continuing with that trend of,
and I think
like, how can they top the next movie? Like, I know in 6 they had like that tank on the bridge and then the plane, and then in 7 they had like what was in 7? The whole car driving out of the buildings in the skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just from that,
They even
every movie they've
got the whole like submarine.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Like they're in the ice and like, what was it? Torres Gibson's character? What is his name?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Here's the thing. I'm willing to buy into the genetic modification super soldier storyline.
Yeah.
Like Idris Elba
If it was part
doing inhuman things
Yeah.
as a part of the story to motivate his character, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But there needs to be something to distinguish him and Dwayne Johnson's character for that to work. And they're on par. Like, you're supposed to believe that he's a superhuman or genetically engineered, and he is almost as weak as Dwayne Johnson. Or Dwayne Johnson, rather, is as strong as a superhuman.
Yeah.
Like,
That's true, but Dwayne Johnson, like, I feel like almost every fight...
the gimmick of the film is that he's a big dude. Like,
yeah,
obviously.
exactly. Like, every fight that Dwayne Johnson was in with Idris Elba's character... right up until the end, he was getting his ass handed to him. Like, but then you could tell that like Idris Elba was a superhuman by picking up like bits of concrete and shit and throwing it at him. So I feel like
they need to hold that standard the whole way through, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, if he's getting
the
his ass beat,
consistency was off with that. Yeah, definitely.
with Dwayne Johnson's character, especially not so much Jason Statham's.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, obviously, in terms of the story structure, is Fast and the Furious is known for having that theme of family.
Yeah.
Where, the first ones were very isolated about Dominic Toretto and his clan.
Yeah.
And this kind of carries across wherein both Hobbs and Shaw have their own family storyline that needs to be wrapped up within the confines of this movie.
Yeah.
Which ends up creating a whole extra act at the end of the film in order to get both characters set up, development, and then resolution in.
Yeah.
I feel like this is because both Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson were producers on the film, and they had their own ideas about how their characters were supposed to be fulfilled.
Yep.
In terms of their development, and like, I honestly feel like it needed to be one or the other. Like, you work on one of the characters, develop them fully. Because that end scene in Samoa, the whole last act, if that had been the climax of the film, but without that section previously at the facility,
in the Ukraine facility,
Ukrainian-Russian facility.
And they still included that whole, like, brother-sister thing, how she overheard what he said and stuff like that.
I mean, like, if you want to...
And they include that in the Samoan... sort of like arc, and they sort of like clean that bit up, like the helicopter part and everything, then it could have been a decent film,
Yeah.
I do think that there was potential there.
Absolutely.
Especially just the whole, like, it was refreshing. Samoa was refreshing as a location because
definitely.
You could have gone back to like really just rustic, old school Fast and the Furious where it's the cars and it's the people without the spectacle.
Yeah.
And it does that for a tiny portion of the film, and you really see like a little gem of what it could have been, and then it's over. It's super brief, but I feel like that could have been something. I do like the idea behind it, but at the end of the day, the execution was
the execution was
shocking.
Off.
Yeah, and then that comes back to the script, which was a mess. Like,
I feel like with the in sort of a scope of the entire Fast and the Furious franchise, I felt like it was better than the last couple of Fast and the Furiouses that have come out. Like, I feel like 7 and 8...
Each one of all, to me, have felt very forgettable.
Yeah, I feel like this one's a little less forgettable, though, simply because, for me, the characters were interesting and the acting was pretty good, whereas in some of the previous films... that have not been as strong as they have in this film, in my opinion.
Right.
But I feel like the issue with this series is a lot of diehard Fast and the Furious fans look back on the older films and they know the cars and they're like, oh, that's Brian's orange Supra and his Nissan Skyline and all that type of stuff from the older films. I don't think I could name one iconic car from Fast and Furious maybe 5 and onwards, like normal people wouldn't even be able to know what car that they were using in that chase.
Do you want to talk about the little Easter egg in London?
Oh, the Italian job. Yeah. So there was one little mention, which I actually really liked. The Jason Statham's walking through his like car collections, and he's got a lot of McLarens and stuff. And then at the end of it, there's a Mini there, Mini Cooper, and what did he say, that he used it for a job in Italy or something like that? Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg. But again, the Mini Cooper was green. So like the Italian job, Italian job cars are red, blue, and white.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit like, come on, like if you're gonna have a little reference, like at least make the car white, or something like that, Yeah. But that was a really nice little Easter egg there.
Yeah. I also want to talk about possibly the best parts of the film, which were like the two individual like celebrity comic relief that took place. They were only like in total maybe like 5 minutes long, but like
that whole plane section I really enjoyed. That was very fun.
Was good.
Yeah, it was a very fun scene on the plane. Yeah.
So the kind of mission director of the CIA was played by Ryan Reynolds in this film,
which I don't think any of us knew he was even in the film at all. So it was a really big surprise. We were kind of like, oh, whoa.
And he brings like classic like Deadpool level like charm and wit to this character, absolutely. And it is like the entire time he's on screen, he steals it. Yeah. Like, just hilarious. He's a funny dude.
He's a very funny guy. He was pretty much almost Deadpool. Like,
he
pretty much.
And then there was a scene on an aeroplane where the air marshal was played by Kevin Hart. Who I'm not usually a fan of, but in this context, like playing off of, he's like the small dude with the big man complex that kind of like bounces off the other characters who are both these big tough guys, and I felt like it worked perfectly while he was on screen. I thought it was hilarious.
I feel like that whole plane scene, just the costume that Dwayne Johnson was wearing was just absolutely hilarious. Like, that was probably one of the highlights of the film, in my opinion. Like, very funny.
Yeah. There are elements of like really crisp humor in this.
Absolutely,
They're the moments that the film does get a rise, when it's actually just like focusing on those little character moments and those little banters and those little interactions.
Yeah, like at the start of the Samoan like the battle where Dwayne Johnson kind of like rocks up with his top off and he's got all of his tattoos and he's got his like ancestors' weapons and stuff, and they kind of jump up and do like I'm not sure what it's called, but like sort of like a haka or a war cry or something like that. And that was really awesome. Like I had like shivers down my spine, like, whoa, man, like these guys are going to go. Yeah, that was a really good scene as well, and that was another highlight. I just wish that they continued sort of that flow throughout that last act.
I also just wish that like the story hadn't been just crafted around, because like obviously you could tell that it was something that meant a lot to Dwayne Johnson and that I'm assuming he pushed to have in the film.
Yeah.
And I did think it was a special moment.
Yeah.
But when you look at it in the context of the story, and you can clearly see that the story's just been crafted so that could happen.
Yeah.
Instead of letting it happen organically, or maybe just like giving up, like you have to trade a little bit of the spectacle and the action in order to have that moment. But they tried to have the best of both worlds, and I don't feel like, for me personally, it landed maybe the same that it did for you, because I felt like I felt like it was a bit of a gimmick in the end, just because of the way that it was presented.
It seemed like
within the story.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like they've at the writing table, they're like, all right, we want to make a movie for Hobbs and Shaw. We got to include family. We'll figure out the rest later, And they brought really good characters to the table that had like relatively funny dialogue.
But that's where I thought
crisp scenes, but everything else was just kind of like doesn't matter, you know.
But that's where I thought that, like, while yes, the character banter was really good, I thought that when they were trying to have their character moments and they was trying to go, be a little bit more than just surface level, it just really failed and missed the mark. Where they were trying to get a bit more depth for me, and they were trying to elicit some kind of emotion, but it just kind of fell.
Yeah,
flat.
those flashback scenes with Jason Statham and his sister.
I actually didn't mind that. I thought those little touches were like nice little things that just like visually just kind of gave a little bit more context.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't mind
it. It's like
it's
filler.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. You can tell that with those flashback scenes, they could have done a lot more in terms of character development. Like, if they wanted to include flashback scenes, and for sure. You know,
and I think that, like, for me as well, like, because the characters up until this film have always been secondary characters in the Fast and Furious films.
Yeah.
And, like, in those films, they were always how they are. In this film, they're just kind of a personality, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like, you're trying to take that and then stretch it into a 2-hour film where they're now the main characters.
Yeah.
And they've had little pieces of character development and you know little things about the characters, but then you're like, okay, you got 2 main leads, now you got to somehow give them some sort of depth and context, and that's where it really struggles.
Yeah. I think that it's important to note that while this has the franchise name attached to it, it's not a Fast and Furious.
It really doesn't feel like
it actually feels
so
apparent.
Separate from, like, at least what I'm expecting to see from a Fast and the Furious film.
Yeah. What did you say, Jordan? The people sitting behind you? What was that?
Yeah, there was 2 people in the cinema that when I think it was the end of the film, they were I just heard them over talking. They said, "Is this a Fast and Furious film?" Because they weren't even sure, like, it because it feels so detached and like that is apparent when you're watching it.
Yeah.
It almost feels like the director wanted to do as much as he could to separate it from being a Fast and Furious film, like, and make it its own thing. And then that's where it kind of runs into issues, is because it's like it's still attached to a franchise, so it has to do things that the Fast and Furious franchise has been doing, whilst trying to make it his own at the same time. That's where it becomes messy.
Yeah, I agree.
And like,
the other question I want to raise is, do you guys think this is just a straight up cash grab?
I don't know. See, I've watched interviews with Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel before, and they say that Fast and the Furious is going to continue as long as they enjoy making the film, because, as you said, Dwayne Johnson was a producer on this film. So
yeah, but you also hear stuff behind the scenes where that reports are saying that the reason this movie happened was because Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson can't work together on the same film because of the, you know,
that's true.
The altercations that occurred.
I'd like to think. I feel like with watching interviews with Dwayne Johnson, I feel like he's a pretty down to earth, genuine guy.
Yeah,
and I feel like that for him, it may not have been about the money. I don't know. It could be a cash grab. I don't know. What do you think, Jordan?
I have no idea, honestly. Like, I'm not. Yeah, I can't comment on that.
Yeah,
at all.
That's fair.
It'll be interesting to see whether the characters, now that they've got their spin-off, will sit independently for the remainder of the franchise,
or if they come back for
reintegrated.
Fast and Furious. Yeah. Is it 9 we're up to, or
9's the next one's going to come.
9's the next one, right?
But I think I want to go back to, like, as well, when talking about how this film feels like it's trying to be its own thing. One thing I did feel like, and when you look at David Leitch's filmography, which is Blood and Deadpool 2, which are both kind of violent films, and that's one thing you almost felt, or I felt like when I was watching this, was that there's so many moments where you're like, this could have been pushed further, and if you were able to give it a higher kind of rating and kind of maybe make it a little bit more violent, maybe you could have made more action sequences that were maybe wider takes where something brutal is happening on screen,
or even like violent humor or something would have worked really well as well.
That's where times where I felt like the banter and the dialogue was really good between the characters, but I felt like it could have been pushed further. And like sometimes it's just like 2 12-year-old kids are poking fun of each other and just throwing kind of insults, and it's like, because they don't use swear words, it's like, yeah, okay, it can be funny, but it's like, and it can go so far. And like, to me, that's where they were like pushing as far as they could go with it. But like, I feel like if they were able to go, more, use more illicit language,
which is where the humor in like a film like such as like Deadpool really works, because you've got that the humor is there, and you've got also like the rating to be able to have as many swear words and as much violence as you want, and that works into the comedy.
But I want to bring it because the original Fast and the Furious films tonally was still a little bit more gritty and dark thematically, but I still think that they had like a PG-13 or an M.
That's true.
No, they did. I'm talking about what this specific film was.
I know, but you're talking, like, I feel like you're talking about it trying to do its own thing, but like it's still sitting within a franchise.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like David Lynch is,
they can't just
tied
change
to the
franchise,
fact. Like that's what I'm saying. The film suffers to me in some areas because it's tied to the franchise. When like if this was its own thing, and like you had free reign to make it its own thing. Then
but
like
you're saying that because I feel like you're saying that it's really lighthearted and jokey. But I still think that the original films managed to stay within the realm of the rating, but still be darker somehow.
That's very true. Like the Tokyo Drift deals with like the Yakuza and like money laundering and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I don't think the rating necessarily, like I feel like the rating is a bit of a scapegoat almost.
Yeah.
But like
maybe.
Yeah.
Bring back the cars. That's what I have to say. You know, like, no, that's the thing where what I was saying before, I feel like the Fast and the Furious franchise is really changing or even losing its original identity it's about the cars. You know, like, as I said, can you name an iconic car past Fast and the Furious 4? You know,
as I
like,
said before,
no one can.
It really is an afterthought in these films. And
exactly. And that really disappoints me as a Fast and the Furious fan of like the first 5 films.
And even when they have a sequence using cars, it's not just a race or something like that. It's got to be some high stakes
shootout. You know, you got one person hanging out the window shooting and stuff. It
can't just be a race. Like,
that's what I was I wanted to mention that as well, actually, that I feel like by raising the stakes so much to like escalating it to like the fate of the world in every film now, or the fate of the United States of America, or whatever's happening, you have now created a film franchise where it's almost less personal and you care less about it. Like, by raising the stakes on a global scale, you actually, as an audience member, care less because you don't have the intimacy. And like the
That's
stakes.
The thing,
I feel like too
many films go to we got to save the world. Whereas like my favorite Fast and the Furious film is Tokyo Drift, and like. The end of that film is literally just a race. That's it. Like, you know, it's a race to settle a dispute between 2 teenagers. And I felt like that race in Tokyo Drift, to me personally, had more stakes than this whole end of the world thing that they keep going on.
And when you focus on one conflict and it's like not all about spectacle, then they have the time to work towards, you know, raising the stakes, raising the tension. Actually, that's what I wanted to mention. In order to try and create like a sense of tension in this film, Vanessa Kirby's character, she infects herself with a virus that is supposed to be extracted within 72 hours or it kills her. And that's at the start of the film. She does that at the start of the movie. So the entire film takes place over the course of 72 hours, and we see them traveling to 3 or 4 countries.
4 different countries. And they travel from, where is it, Ukraine to Samoa. And Samoa is like near New Zealand, isn't it?
I don't know. But there's like no way that... At the end of the day, the stake of 72 hours is literally so that in the last act of the film, you can have a timer on screen that's she's got 30 minutes left.
I know there was a couple of times in the last act where they like attached the thing to her arm and it had 30 minutes to take.
That was
the
the only time that like time became apparent.
And
it's a cliche way to show
it wasn't great. Like,
they'd do that. They did that and it had a 30-minute countdown, and then they had this whole battle scene, and then afterwards it cuts back to her character and it's only been like 9 minutes, and you're like, what? Like, there was explosions and shooting and like people beating the crap out of each other and everything, and it only been 9 minutes. I remember seeing that, like the 21 on the counter. I was like, what? You know, like that was my reaction in the cinema. You know,
a race against the clock doesn't really work when it really only is apparent at the very start of the film and at the very end of the film.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's referenced throughout, but
it only becomes relevant. It only becomes relevant when the plot demands it.
And you don't even see her being affected in any way. Like, that's another way to show it. If she was like deteriorating across the film, that could have been a way to show it, but like that didn't.
But she still looked perfect with all the makeup and everything. So I was like, oh well.
One thing as well I do want to say is I did appreciate, like, the David Leitch understood the physicality of the actors. Like, they really utilized that in the film. So, like, obviously Dwayne Johnson's like a big guy, so like the way he kind of moves and the way he fights in the film versus the way Jason Statham fights. He really understood that really well.
With that.
They'd very much given like each character like a very generic sort of like role type thing, you know, like Dwayne Johnson's the big bruiser, sort of like big bruiser, and then Jason Statham's like the espionage spy, and his sister's very similar to him and everything. So
can I touch really quickly on that romance?
Oh, that was very ham-fisted.
That was very strange.
It was weird. How old is Vanessa Kirby versus how old is Dwayne Johnson? Because
I don't know. It's a good question.
I was looking at them on screen and they had little to no chemistry.
I don't think Vanessa Kirby's not. She's not like super young or anything. Like she was born in what, like the 80s or something.
Actually, I could probably look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
And then Dwayne Johnson, I don't know. I have no clue how old he is.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, I must say that whole romance thing, because I don't know, kind of didn't really turn into a romance thing. It was sort of like a running joke throughout the entire film, but then they like kissed at the end. So
yeah,
it was kind of.
There was a few like flirtatious looks throughout the film, but that was
31 and he is 47.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like what 15.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's but it wasn't believable.
No.
At least to me.
But then that goes back into those like character moments where they tried to be like, hey, let's give him a bit of depth and a little bit of...
Yeah, that's true. And
it just
like,
misses
what's
them
the easiest way to give him a bit of depth? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we wrap it up and give final thoughts then?
Yeah.
I'm happy to, yeah.
Do you want to go first, Jordan?
Yeah, sure. Overall, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this film. I thought that there were moments that worked, and that was primarily the actors who elevated the script. And the banter in particular worked quite well, but overall the script and the story in particular was very messy. Thought David Leitch did what he could with the story he was given. But yeah, where the franchise is going and like the world-ending stakes, it just, for me, it's just not working anymore. Yep. And I think they really do need to find a way to really bring the franchise back to its roots, which is kind of the racing side of things. But that's for me personally. But I feel like if you're someone who would like to just go in and turn your brain off for 2 hours, this movie is going to offer you that, and you've got more than enough elements there to enjoy the film. As I said, the banter is really good, and the action sequences you might get a kick out of. So, yeah.
I agree 100%. I don't really want to reiterate anything. I just want to throw out a little bit of love for Idris Elba, because I do feel like
he made the best of what he...
Yeah, he killed it.
He had very, very limited screen time. I do feel like he absolutely nailed his performance. I honestly think he was probably the best part of this movie. He was the dude I had the most fun watching on screen. So, I would not recommend, generally speaking. I think you need to be very, very much a fan of either the style of movie or like so into Fast and the Furious that you don't really care about what you're watching in order to get a kick out of it. So,
See, I think I enjoyed the film a little bit more than both of you guys. However, it did drag on quite a bit, especially in the second act. I feel like you guys pretty much summed it up. Like, if you're a fan of Fast and the Furious, then absolutely you're going to love it. If you feel like watching a film that's funny and doesn't have much of a storyline and you don't need to think, then you're going to love it. But if you're looking for something more than that, then it's not the movie to go see. That's for sure.
Definitely nowhere near that kind of John Wick level of action.
Absolutely not. I do have to give props to Vanessa Kirby, Dwayne Johnson and Idris Elba, because I feel like they're acting. I don't know, not as much Jason Statham. I don't think he's a fantastic actor, but those three for me were fantastic.
I thought everyone in the film did a really good job, personally.
That's
like
fair.
I thought all the actors gave a solid performance.
Yep. Okay.
Well, thanks for sticking with us for 40 minutes?
Yeah, about 40 minutes. Yeah.
We'd really like to hear your thoughts if you've seen the film. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the movie, or if you have any points you'd like to discuss that you think like we missed the mark on, or anything like that.
Or if a new take on something maybe we missed, or
exactly true. We definitely would like to hear your feedback.
Yeah, we've really set this up because we just like to talk about it. So as many people as we can get kind of conversing with us, the better. In all honesty. This was Rewind, Stop, Fast Forward, our first review of Hobbs and Shaw.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, thanks, guys. We just want to let you know what we got going on for the next couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to be providing our personal lists of our favorite Tarantino films, ranked from 1 to 9 or 1 to 8, or whatever he has currently. And the week after that, because it'll be in preparation of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So we'll see that when it comes out and give you our thoughts and a general discussion about that film in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.